The People's Platform.
Good evening and welcome to the People's Platform. My guest tonight is the only Sri Lankan man to have summited the highest mountain in the world, Mount Everest. And following the success of summiting Mount Everest, he has taken on the challenge of completing the 7 summits, taking the Sri Lankan flag to the highest points in each of the 7 continents. I'm so pleased to welcome to the studio, Johann Peries. Good evening and welcome, Johann.
Good evening.
Johann, you successfully climbed Mount Everest in May 2018. Your upcoming venture is to take on the 7 summits, which are the tallest peaks in each of the continents, and only 350 people approximately in the world have successfully climbed all 7. Firstly, Johann, this is absolutely intense. Take us through what inspired you to take on the challenge of the 7 summits, and how did you mentally prepare yourself for this journey?
So actually that wasn't my goal at the beginning.
Okay.
But after doing Mount Everest and summiting Mount Everest, the question that I was asked time and time again was, what next?
Yeah.
And I had to give something for me to move on from there onwards also. I had to set myself a goal. So I looked at all the different possibilities. I wanted to know what I was doing, but mountain climbing is a passion that I have, and I thought I have to explore this area. And then I thought I'll look into the 7 summits. But it is a challenge. So mentally I had to prepare myself that, that this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to take on this and find out actually whether it was possible to actually do all 7, because, I know Mount Everest might be, everybody thinks it's the hardest. Yes, it is the hardest out of all the 7. But each one of these mountains have their own challenges.
Right.
And we've got to face them.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sri Lanka has adequate mountainous terrain. Yeah. However, Sri Lankans by and large don't really have a culture of mountain climbing, hiking, backpacking. These are not mainstreamed areas. Yeah. Why do you think that is?
So, I think we were not exposed to it from a young age. You will, if you go to the villages, of course, you will find it's a different level altogether, and people there, they go, they explore, they just do it for fun. The young kids do it for fun, and the villagers itself will explore certain areas, through necessity or for some sort of means that they need to go into the mountains.
Sure.
But it wasn't a sport that was actually looked into or something that was really looked upon. Till very recently. I think that is changing now. And especially after Jayanti and I went to Mount Everest, absolutely. I think that took a completely different turn altogether. And the interest has built up now, not just nationally but even globally, for people to come in here. And even for the tourist industry itself, they have started looking into hiking and climbing as a tourist, as a new sort of a tourist venture in this country. And that is moving forward really fast.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's great potential in terms of tourism.
Absolutely.
As well, right?
Absolutely. And one of the things that has just been created is the Peko Trail.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's amazing. It's actually an amazing trail which takes you through the entire mountainous terrain of this country, through all the British tea trails, the British tea estates that were created at that time, the pathways that connect the transport systems, the estates together. It's actually amazing, and you're on foot. So you go to places that you would never see when you're traveling by vehicle or by any other means of transport. And that's the beauty of it. You get to some places and then you just stand there and you think, am I really in Sri Lanka? Is this really Sri Lanka? And it has amazed me. I did the entire Peko Trail before it even opened.
Okay.
I did a trial run on it, and I was just blown away completely by the beauty and the potential we had. And now there's so much of traction, around the world with the tourists. They're coming just to do this, and I think that's amazing, and that's great.
Yeah. Johann, the first time you attempted the Mount Everest climb back in 2016 with Jayanti Kurutumpala, with just 400 meters to the summit, you were asked to turn back. How gut-wrenching was that for you? I'd like you to go back in time because I feel like that would really set the stage for this interview, because you're attempting the 7 summits, which is also going to be extremely grueling and intense.
Yeah, actually, it really gets me emotional each time you talk about it, like you said.
Sure.
Yes, so what really happened was, Sonali, just 400 meters, everything went off well. We were going well on the final day of the summit 2 months later,
Yeah.
after we had got there. And 400 meters to the summit, my Sherpa came up to me, looked at my meter, and he said that I had to turn back. And my initial reaction was, why? What's wrong? I'm perfectly fine. And then he said, there's not enough oxygen for you to go. And I said, no, that can't be. I wasn't going to accept what he told me, and I didn't. I kept going. Yeah, I said, forget it, I'm going. I put my mask back on and I started going because I wasn't going to give up. And I actually made up my mind at that point that it really didn't matter, even if I lost my life. Yeah, I had set a goal upon myself and I wanted to get there. But then 10 meters later, he came and caught hold of me again. He pleaded with me and he said, don't do this. He said, you know what will happen. Then he got people on radio to speak to me from the camps below and try and convince me to turn back because I had enough oxygen to get to the summit, but I certainly didn't have enough to come back. Yeah, and it was really tough for me at that point. Here's this challenge we've taken upon ourselves. 5 years of planning has gone into this, and now at the spur of the moment they wanted to turn back, and I had just 400 meters to the summit and it was just there. I think it's one of the hardest decisions I have made in my life. Yeah, but I had to take time for myself. I just told him, leave me alone. I had to think about it. I had to mentally prepare myself that I was going to do this, and sat down. Of course, I always keep saying this, that my faith came into play a lot there. Yeah, and I questioned, and then I realized that life was more important than anything else. The mountain is not going anywhere. So I decided to turn back. I was completely shattered when I made the decision and turned back. But then I thought, it doesn't matter. And at that point, Jayanti had already gone. She had passed and she had gone there because she went ahead of me. And I was hoping that she had already got there because we went as a team. And the goal was to take the Sri Lankan flag to the top of the world. And I was hoping that one of us could do it. And I was almost sure that she had got ahead of me and she was there. So that was a kind of consolation for me. Yeah, and I was able to pacify myself. And then she came down. She was also shattered that I didn't make it.
Yeah.
And then she said, you know what, we did this together. We are a team. And that's how we looked at it.
Yeah, and speak to us also about how you managed your mental health at that time, and after you climbed down, how did you deal with the emotions?
Very tough. It was really tough. Of course, I must say Jayanti was so encouraging, and she kept telling me that this was something we did together. So she said, we are victorious together. And even when we came here to the airport and the press was there and they asked us a question, she said, no, we did this as a team. Yeah, the two of us did this summit together and it's our victory together. And that gave me a lot of strength. Yeah, that really gave me immense strength at that time. But then there were lots of incidents that followed later on also. We were invited to events, we were invited for shows, we were invited to talk at forums. And there were instances where people would actually move me out of the picture because I had made it to the top. So those were emotionally very challenging, to go through.
Yeah.
But thank God I was strong enough to withstand that and to keep my head above the my shoulders and sort of carry on. And I thought, it is only because people don't know how difficult it is.
Yeah.
And what the challenges really are.
Yeah.
And that's how I looked at it.
And then in May 2018, you
managed.
summited Mount Everest. Speak to us about that exhilaration as well.
So that was amazing because, when I came back in 2016, the first question again that was asked was, will you go back? And my answer was never. Because I knew how difficult it was. I knew what I had gone through mentally, how challenging it was. They kept telling us before we went that there was a chance that we might not come back. But that's all hearsay, and it's things that are told to you. Yeah. But when you actually go there and you start seeing the dead bodies, and you start seeing people who have died on the climb with you, and reality hits you, and suddenly you're thinking, what am I doing here? This could be me. And there's a huge mental breakdown at that time, and you really have to be strong. You have to really overcome, that situation to keep carrying on. So that's why I kept saying, no, I won't go back. But 6 months down the line, this urge came back into me, and I thought, I'm going to live with regret for the rest of my life if I don't complete what I have started. And I thought I have to go back and do it. And that's how it all began. And of course, Jayanti was one of the first people to encourage me. As soon as I said I wanted to go back, she said, yes, go back, do it. Because I think she knew what it meant. Because she said if I was in the same position, I would have done the same.
Yeah.
So.
Do you think it's one of the best decisions you made?
Absolutely. First to turn back. That was a great decision. And then, of course, going back, because then I knew that there was a certain kind of satisfaction, and what it was like when I actually stood on the summit in 2018 on the 22nd of May. I realized what I had missed, and that if I hadn't come back, that I certainly would have lived with regret.
Right.
So I was happy that I had gone back, and that I was able to achieve my goal.
In taking on these challenges, Johann, you come face to face with death. How scary is that?
It is a scary process. It's just not, I told you earlier about seeing the dead bodies and all, it's just not about that as well. There are scary situations that you face as well. You had to cross bridges, you had to cross crevices on ladders, and if you fall off, that's it. I remember watching Everest, the movie, just before I went. It came out, it was released in 2016. And watching that, people kept coming back and telling me, don't go and see it because it's too scary. And I said, no, I have to see it, because if a movie is going to threaten me, that means I'm not mentally prepared to go.
Sure.
I had to see it, and I had to see it over and over again to prepare myself mentally.
Right.
And I'm glad it came out at that time, because I was able to sort of, realize what I was facing as well. Of course, there were lots of other researches that we did.
Sure.
We did a lot of research to sort of see what the terrain was, what the challenges were, and what we were really facing. But nothing really prepares you to what you actually face when you get there. It's completely different, and when you sit there and then suddenly the first avalanche happens, you're at the mercy of nature. And anything could happen. So every time we left base camp and had to go on a climb, it was like the Last Supper. They would prepare this lovely meal for you, because they were not sure whether you would come back.
Right.
And that was reality.
What do you think are some of your learnings from your previous climbs that have significantly shaped your approach to mountaineering?
So actually, just how you take on the challenge itself and how you got to prepare yourself. I think one of the things I've really learned is that you must never go into something half prepared.
Sure.
You have to prepare yourself mentally and physically. You don't think the mental challenges are that important, but really they are, because that's what really keeps you going at the end of the day. And through all these have been learning experiences for me, like even having to turn back. It was a humbling process for me. Just to know how much greater nature is.
Sure.
And that we can't overcome some of the things nature throws upon us. Yeah, so it's a real humbling experience when you go out there, and that's an amazing learning experience itself, you know, and also really preparing yourself, yeah, getting information from others, you know, trying to sort of seek assistance from others and getting the kind of help that we need. We didn't have it because there was nobody who had attempted it here, so we had to seek help elsewhere.
Okay.
And that helped us a lot, and I think that was a whole part of the process of preparation before we went.
Okay. So you and Jayanti pioneered or created a foundation for other Sri Lankans to also want to attempt the Mount Everest climb. Does this, do you get approached by other Sri Lankans? How is that process like?
Lots of them actually.
Okay.
I think it opened out a completely different area, you know, a completely different sphere in that area. Lots of people have been coming and asking, you know, getting advice and saying that they want to do it someday. Young kids have always come and spoken to us. We've been talking a lot at schools, you know, doing motivational talks, them motivating kids, and speaking at lots of other forums. And lots of people have walked up to me and said that they want to do this.
Right.
This is their dream. And, you know, I'm able to tell them that you have to go after your dream, and it's a possibility. It is real. You can achieve your goal. Yeah, and I think that's a great thing.
Amazing. Johann, let's now come to the challenge of the 7 summits. You have already commenced your journey.
Yes.
Take us through what you have already begun and what more is left to be done.
So out of the 7 I have already done, I have already climbed, I have climbed 6
Okay.
and summited 4.
Okay. Right.
Why I said that is because 2 of them I have to repeat.
Okay.
I climbed them almost to the summit,
Okay.
but on the last day there were storms and we had to come down. Okay, so the 7 mountains are, if I may quickly run through
Sure,
them.
please.
Asia is Mount Everest, of course.
Yeah.
Australia is Mount Kosciuszko. Africa is Kilimanjaro, and Europe is Mount Elbrus, and North America is Mount Denali. That's one of the ones I went and had to turn back. South America is Aconcagua in Argentina, again, which I went and on the last day had to turn back. And the last one that's left for me to do is Antarctica, Mount Vinson.
Wow. Okay, so your next stop is Antarctica?
Yes, I'll start off with Antarctica, which will be in January, first week in January. And then I'm planning to do all 3 back-to-back, Sonali.
Okay.
One is because I want to complete it by
Right.
summer next year.
Okay.
The other thing is also the expenses. It's very expensive to do this, and also airfares are so expensive, logistics, you know, arranging the logistics. So if I go to the region, I thought I might as well do both mountains that is in that region, which is Antarctica and South America. Then come back, recuperate for about a month, and go back to Denali, which is in the North American continent.
Sure. Take us through the physical regimen.
Yes, so that is also something that you really have to be committed to.
Okay.
And so each one of these mountains has a different challenge. Now, when you go to Antarctica and Denali, the difference there is that you don't have help. There are no
Oh,
porters.
Okay.
There are no Sherpas like you had in
Everest,
Nepal,
okay.
when you were climbing Everest. You have to carry the weight yourself. Everything has to be taken by you. It's divided amongst your team members. There are about 6 in the team. And when you're going to Denali, you carry approximately about 50 kilos on your back. Not on your back, but 50 kilos with you.
50 kilos.
50.
Okay.
It's like carrying somebody else. You
Yeah.
know? So you have 20 on your back in these huge backpacks, and about 30 tied onto you, which is on a sledge, which you have to pull up the mountain. It's ice. Yeah.
Okay.
And you've got to do that. So those, so you have to keep training for that.
Right.
right? And you have to do physical exercises that will strengthen certain areas of your body, especially your shoulder muscles, which would carry the weight, your leg muscles that could actually take you through. And it's a process. So each mountain, they also give you a guideline, the company that you're going with, they give you a guideline that the regimen that you have to follow or something similar. Yeah, and then you keep following that and you do extra as much as you can. You have to be really committed. That's the most important thing. You can't make excuses. We have a tendency to make excuses all the time, right? It's either the rain or the weather or something else, but here there's no excuse. Whether rain or sunshine, I have to be out there 5 in the morning training. Sometimes we're training in the evening again, so twice a day. Then I go to the mountains. I do the exercise there where I run up mountains and run down again just to build up my stamina. And different forms of exercises that we have to adapt ourselves to through the whole process.
Through the years, Johann, from how have you seen your mental agility and mental strength develop? From then to now, do you see a shift? How transformative has it been?
I think it has been really transformative, in my life itself. The way I look at life itself, it has given me a completely different perspective to life as well. Yeah, how I look at life is completely different now. I'm more appreciative of everything, and I'm a much stronger person, I feel, because of what I have been through mentally. I'm able to face challenges. I'm able to take on, especially we've all gone through a tough time through the COVID period, and then of course the economic crisis that the country faced. And through that, I run my own businesses as well. So we all faced difficulties at that time, and I think this whole process also gave me the strength and prepared me mentally, gave me the mental agility to actually go through this situation, and I was able to do it because of what I had already been through. And I think that's the whole shaping process that I have gone through because of what I have done.
Yeah, because societally we tend to fret the little stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we are so unappreciative of this beautiful life. So
Yes.
that you see
That
that
is-
shift, right?
That is one of the most important things, to appreciate what you have. We forget the little things.
Yeah.
In the process, we are so involved in everything around us, the world around us, that we forget the little things. And the process changes. That's what I said, it has changed the perspective of life for me. Given me a completely different perspective.
Also, what role does risk management play in your expeditions? How do you manage to make certain key decisions with accuracy?
So there are certain, when it comes to risks, there are certain risks that we can control and that we can't control.
Sure.
So we would do everything, everything that we can physically, mentally, everything we can to mitigate those risks, that come upon us. But there are certain risks that we can't control. For instance, nature.
Yeah.
It's beyond us. So that's something that we've just got to face when we are out there. You can be caught in avalanche. I remember in 2016, I was crossing one of the ladders in the Khumbu ice fall, and then suddenly somebody shouted that there was an avalanche, and I heard this roaring sound coming down. And for a moment I thought, that was it. It's all over for me. Because I thought that was the end, because I saw the snow falling down and coming towards us, and my Sherpa said, jump and hide. I was on a ladder. Where do you jump? You just freeze at that time because you don't know what to do. But we managed to get behind one of the ice blocks, and of course the avalanche hit us. But by then it had lost its strength, so we managed to escape. But that's what I mean by the risks you can't control. So for everything else, we would try to do everything proper. Train yourself better, do whatever what you have to to mitigate those risks, but also where your clothing is concerned, where your equipment is concerned, get the best equipment. Don't take shortcuts. You can't take shortcuts in a journey like this, and that's why the cost factor is also there, because it is expensive sport.
In terms of doing the research before embarking on such an expedition, is there a collated body of work, or must you really go into all sorts of forums to find the research with regards to logistics, risk management, appropriate gear, etc.?
So now with with all the sort of access we have,
Right.
yeah, to all the information, yeah, it makes it a lot easier nowadays for us. But at the beginning, I think we had to do a lot of research as well.
Okay.
We had to get in touch with different sort of entities
Sure.
who had done this, who are able to give us the advice, the right advice, who have the experience in it. Even now, I still do that. I speak to people who have actually gone. I go through the net and I find, there are different blogs that you can go into. You can start learning from that. So we do that. And then the company that you actually choose to go with, each of these expeditions, they also give you a guideline. And there's somebody that liaises with you, so that you can actually question, you can ask anything you want to, and they will put you in the right direction as well. So we have that, and we're fortunate to have that. And of course, the internet is there now. You can find out anything you want in that as well. Yeah.
Another one of your objectives of summiting the 7 summits is to make sure that you place the Sri Lankan flag on each of these summits, peaks?
Yes,
Okay.
summits.
This is going to be such a phenomenal promotional exercise for Sri Lanka, for Sri Lankan tourism. From that aspect, what are your thoughts?
So, first of all, I think somebody would think that it's kind of, I don't know what to call it, taking the Sri Lankan flag. It's something that I wanted to do, and I feel, that's, I want to own it, because this is my nation that I'm carrying with me. And I'm always proud when I pull out my flag there with everybody else, and it's a flag that is not very well known also in some parts of the world, right? Because we are such a small country. And I feel so proud and honored when I take my flag out. At certain points, I remember even in Russia, there was nobody who had gone up there. No Sri Lankan had been there to Mount Everest. And they found this flag really fascinating, and I took the flag out.
Sure.
So much so that one of the ladies in a little cafe down there wanted it, because she wanted to hang it in her cafe.
Okay.
Yeah, she thought it was so significant to have this flag there. So likewise, I think this, they're calling it, or my friends are calling it, like a national event. They think that this is like a national event, the 7 summits. Only 350 approximately, like you mentioned at the beginning, have actually done this. So I think it is a great honor for our country as well, to have somebody, because, from an island, it's very rarely do you see anywhere in the world, you see people going and doing this kind of challenge or taking on this kind of challenge, because we don't have the facility, we don't have the environment. To do that. We are not formed, our bodies are not formed to do this kind of thing. So it has to be a real challenge that you take upon yourself. And that's why I think it is very important. And I think if you look at it from a national point of view, I think we can really capitalize on this where tourism is concerned as well.
Yeah.
We can take the Sri Lankan flag, we can take a logo up there saying Visit Sri Lanka or something to that effect, and let the world see.
Absolutely. Are you in touch with Sri Lanka tourism?
We are trying to get there. We are in the process.
Okay.
Haven't got there yet.
Okay.
But I'm hoping that they will see the potential in it, and they will see.
Absolutely. And if someone who's watching this show wants to get in touch with you, assist you in this venture, how can they reach you?
So one of the things is, of course, through my social media. That is one of the ways to get through. If you just go into Instagram or Facebook and just type Johann Peries, it just comes up, and my contact is always there. But I also have a manager who handles all that for me, and we have a whole team who has got together for this expedition,
Right.
for this entirety of this expedition, and they are there to help. So there's a lot of information that's been given out in the next few weeks as well. We are also trying to launch a bit of a campaign, because we are trying to get the public also involved,
Yeah.
right? Because when I went to Everest the second time, we kind of made it a public climb where everybody joined in by buying a step, just so that they were there. And that was immense strength for me as well.
Of
When I was
course.
out there, I knew that there were between 16 and 20,000 people following me and virtually doing the climb with me.
Yeah.
Not physically, but virtually doing the climb with me. And that gave me a lot of strength. And every time I felt down or I sat down and, broke down, I always used to think of everybody who was with me. And I thought, I have to do this for them. I had to do this for my country. I had to do it for my nation.
Yeah.
And that was there. That feeling was always there with me. And
Yeah.
that took me through. So I think it'll be great if everybody joins me on this as well, when we finally launch the campaign,
Absolutely.
and be a part of this amazing journey.
Yeah. So within the next few months.
Yes.
I think
Within
we
the
can-
next month, we are hoping to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, where we launch the platform where you can join in. We might also have a crowdfunding system and put into place by then.
Sure.
So anybody who wants to join in can join in. But if they just want to be a part of it, just to be there and see and support, that's there as well.
Amazing. If there are any aspiring climbers looking to undertake their own mountain climbing journeys, what kind of advice would you have for them? Because this is not just about physical strength; it's very holistic, right?
It is. It is. I would tell anybody who wants to do this, just do it. Just do it, because at least start it. There's somewhere that you need to start. There's always a starting point. Lots of people think, oh no, I don't think I can go to these heights. I can't do this because I can't stand the cold. You've got to start somewhere. Yeah, I started by just going up the little mountains here. That's all we did. Yeah, everything here, and then started climbing the bigger mountains here, and going through rough terrains, going through different altitudes, different atmospheres, and then finally got there. So your journey has to start somewhere, and I would advise anyone who wants to do it to, give it a go. Start somewhere, see how you do with it. Yeah, take the challenge on. And if anyone needs advice, I'm always there to help. I will guide them through.
Johann, you are interestingly and fabulously also the only stylist to have ever climbed Mount Everest. How do the two collide?
So it's funny, Sonali, that you're asking me that, because you're right. You're absolutely right. They don't go together. Stylists, hairdressers are not people who like getting their fingers dirty. They don't like doing this type of thing. They like the city life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you tell them there's a party and they'll all be there,
Yeah.
or party for 24 hours or whatever. But this is something I think, I don't know, it's something that I had in me from my small days. I was always connected with nature. We were taken out there from our small days and we were put out there. So I think that's what actually drew me to this. Yeah, from my small days, what I was doing. Also, I found that in my work that I tend to draw from nature as well for inspiration.
Right.
And that fascinated me. There's so much that we can draw, so much that we can learn from nature as well. I used to, how the colors mix sometimes. Sometimes when I go snorkeling, I'm fascinated with the colors that you see underneath there and the combinations together. So I started using that in my work as well, and I found that was an amazing sort of, find for me. Yeah, that I connected the two. And that's how, I became connected to both, and I managed to balance both off.
Sure. And you were encouraged by your father, who was also a very outdoorsy person.
That's right.
Speak to us about that influence as well.
So that's where it all began, from my very, very small days. I have a family of two other siblings, my brother and my sister, who is elder to me. I was the youngest. And our whole family, including my mom, we used to go out a lot. We used to travel a lot around the country. My dad used to go fishing, he used to go hunting, and explore different areas, climbing, going into new areas. And this was back then, so we could go and we could do this, and there were lots of places that were undiscovered. And we used to be there with him, and I think that's what got us into it. I took to the climbing part of it. My brother took the fishing and hunting part of it.
Right.
And we explored that further. And we still do that. And that's how it all began. And then I started actually going with my father and exploring different areas here. We climbed the Knuckles Range from different angles, other mountains that people hadn't gone to, and it was really fascinating for me, even during my school days when I had to do that. Yeah, and I wasn't a great sports person in school, and somehow I started building all this after I left school.
Right.
So the message out there is that you don't need to be brought into it, and it doesn't need to be a culture of yours. You can actually deviate and sort of create these passions that you have.
Sure.
And I started doing that, and it's amazing. I've gone into the fitness levels. The fitness training that I do is just unbelievable. People are fascinated, and my friends from school, they are fascinated. They're wondering, who is this guy? You're not the same guy who was in school with us.
Right.
Yeah, and it has taken me completely to a different level now. I'm doing marathons. I'm running marathons. I took part in the Ironman, all that, and it's fascinating actually that it has opened up a completely different area for me.
My next question might be construed as anticlimactic, but it's also deeply human, so I want to ask you this. Johann, you can just sit, watch Netflix with a pizza and just chill out. But instead, you're undertaking this grueling series of climbing some of the most dangerous and challenging mountains across the world. Why?
Sir Edmund Hillary was asked this question: why did you climb Mount Everest? And he said, because it was there. But that's not my answer. It's something that has really inspired me, and it's very hard to answer that question and tell somebody who actually hasn't been there, who hasn't done that. Because when you get up there, or when you have finally got your destination, it's an amazing feeling that you actually can't put into words. It's actually unbelievable. It takes a little while for you to actually realize. The realization comes in only after you have started coming back down, because it's so amazing when you get up there. And it can be really hard, it can be really tough. You get up there and then you come down and you think, I'm done, But then 1 month later, you want to go back somewhere. So I think it's something that bites you. It's this kind of urge that bites into you. Yeah, and you want to keep going back and doing it over and over again. And that's what's got to me. And for me, I'm somebody who always wanted to challenge myself. I've done a lot of things in life, and I always tell people I've lived my life to the fullest. Even in my career, I just love what I do. Yeah, and I think I have really gone far and beyond in that, and still going forward. But likewise, in everything that I wanted to do in life, I sang, I did productions, I did theatre productions, I acted, I was a dancer, I used to go and compete all over the world. And you know, all that. So I give myself a challenge and I want to fulfill that. So I want to get to as far as I can. I know I might not be able to cover everything, or I might not do what others do, but it's not what others do. It is what I want to do for myself. And I set myself a goal, and I may try to make sure I get there.
How do people come to understand the importance of having this zest for life?
I think that is something that you have to realize yourself.
Yeah, it's a deeply personal journey.
It's very, very personal. You know, somebody listening to me might think, what's he talking about today? Yeah, what is this kick he gets out of climbing mountains and doing this? You know, but I think it's very personal. Yeah, for me, it is a spiritual journey as well.
Sure.
Yeah, this is a spiritual journey for me. I am a spiritual person. Yeah, and I think that's what has given me the strength to do this as well, and to achieve most of the things that I have achieved. And I believe that. And that's what has given me the strength to move forward and take on this journey in what I am doing and what I have done. So that's my inspiration.
Johann, this was such a fantastic conversation. Thanks for coming into the studio, and all the best with the 7 summits.
Thank you, Sonali. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for watching us. We'll see you again next Friday. Good night.